and today I'm going to show you how to make a stained glass star ornament similar to one like this. The first thing that you need to do is have two different copies of your pattern. This one I've used before, and then this one, which we will glue onto the glass. You need to label three different things. First, the numbers, which identifies each piece of glass, a letter, which labels the color of the glass, and then the arrows, which labels the grain direction. Next, what we are going to do is cut this pattern into separate pieces to glue on the glass. I'm using special foiling scissors, which cut out a strip in the middle that leaves room for the foiling, which we will do later. So we are going to glue the pattern onto the glass using rubber cement. The glass that I am using is this swirly pink glass called Baroque, and we are going to rubber cement each piece of the pattern onto the glass. Make sure when you are gluing the pattern on to follow the grain direction. In this case, the grain direction is going this way, and so that's how we are going to glue on the pattern. What you do is you take this cutter and put your pointer finger to the left to steady the blade. You put the cutter right along the edge of the pattern and score the glass. Next, you'll take the grosers. I like to use 2 sets because it makes it a lot more steady. Some people just use 1. And then you break the glass off. Since the edges of the glass aren't right exact up to the pattern and they're a little bit jagged and rough, you have to grind the glass to the edge of the pattern. This is a grinder that we will be using today. When grinding, I use this little tool called a grinder's mate. You can only use this with small pieces of glass, but it protects your hands from getting roughened up by the grinder. And then, once you grind, you go from left to right, left to right. Don't go back and forth or it'll cause bumps in the glass. And watch and I'll show you how to grind. It's kind of loud. We are going to do is foil the edges of the glass with copper foiling. This is foil. It's almost like a sticky tape that you'll just put on the edges of glass, and that will make it so that the solder will stick to the edges of the glass when you're assembling everything together. When you attach the piece of glass onto the foil, you need to make sure it's right in the center, so there's a little bit of room on each side to fold the tape over. So the foiling is attached, but the edges are still poking up on both sides, so this is what we use. It's called a fit. What you do is you just smooth the foil on each side, and then you use your fingers and your fid to put down the edges of the foil that was left over. There is our little star. Now we're going to use the flux, and you'll just dip your flux brush into the liquid. This is very toxic. You want to make sure you don't get it on your hands, and if you do, just make sure you wash your hands off. And what the flux does, it allows the solder to stick onto the copper foil. If there wasn't any flux on there, the solder would just kind of ball up and it won't stick to the glass at all. So then what you do is you take this solder and just make sure you're really careful because this is hot enough to melt metal. So don't get it on your hands or drop it onto your body because that really stings. And you'll just start putting the metal onto the areas that have foil on them. You want to make sure when you solder just to bring it down and then lift up. Don't drag the soldering iron along the lines or else the solder will get really bumpy. Soldering does take a lot of practice in order to get your lines really straight. Now that we have both of the sides soldered together, the last thing that we have to do is solder the edges. And make sure again that you use an old rag to hold on to. This will prevent you from burning your hands and it will also catch some of the solder that will drop. And you'll just want to solder the sides. And now you have a finished stained glass ornament.